Welcome to the Pretty Powerful Podcast, where powerful women are interviewed every week to share real inspiring stories and incredible insight to help women or anyone break the barriers, be a part of innovation, shatter the glass ceiling, and dominate to the top of their sport, industry, or life's mission. Join us as we celebrate exceptional women and step into our power. And now, here's your host, Angela Gennari.
Hello, and thank you for joining us for another episode of the Pretty Powerful Podcast. My name is Angela Gennari, and today we are here with Natalie Guzman. Am I saying that correctly?
Yep, that's correct.
Awesome. So welcome, Natalie, to the show. I'm super excited to talk to you.
Hey, I'm so excited to be here.
So Natalie Guzman became a virtual assistant in 2015 after her job told her that she had 2 days to give birth, and then she would have to return to work. I mean, that's just insane. She immediately started her virtual assistant business to make money from home on her terms. When she decided to turn her side hustle into an agency, it hit 6 figures in 3 months. Now, Natalie owns multiple businesses, including a virtual assistant agency and an all-in-one software for businesses to build websites, emails, automations, and more while raising her family in Southwest Florida. That's so cool. I love it when you have a challenge and you turn it into a triumph. That's amazing. So tell me what gave you the courage to say, that's it, I'm going out on my own?
I think I was just kind of put at this point when, also it's really hard to put into a bio, but we actually miscarried multiple children before this pregnancy. So this was my first one in the safe zone. Wow. And I saw it as a risk to my family's health because we were also expecting this child to be born with lots of medical issues. And we knew it was going to be costly. We knew it was going to be timely. I was going to need to be around. And so when they said only 2 days, I was like, yeah, you're putting my family's safety and their health at risk for me going to work 2 days, especially myself, where my body was actually having a really hard time carrying the child. And so I was just like, we're about to have a lot of medical bills. How are we going to make this money? What are we going to do? And how can I do it while staying at home with my child? Because that's probably what she's going to end up needing. Yeah. And so I just started searching for ways to make money from home. I found being a virtual assistant was very similar to kind of what I was doing for the company. Mm-hmm. And I found out I was really, really good at it. And I actually landed my first client while in labor, and we signed for a house all while we were in the hospital. Wow. And she was born at 2 pounds. So she was a tiny little thing.
Wow. Well, gosh. Okay. I don't even know if I want to start with congratulations or OMG or what, but
all the feelings,
all of it. So, okay. So I'm still stuck on this idea that your employer said you have 2 days. That to me is just astounding. Like, who has that audacity to say?
And it was a woman. It was a woman that told me.
Really?
Yeah, she did have children of her own. But still, that was a woman, was very, very surprising to me. And that company is now bankrupt. So they got their time on the end. Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. So, okay, so you said, okay, enough is enough. I've got to focus on my family. This is my opportunity. This is a miracle child, right? Like this child needs all of your attention. And so at what point do you say, I need to start balancing? Like I need to be able to make money, but my family needs me. So, as a mom, I think this is a challenge that we have all the time where it's like, how do you balance being a mother, but now also being an entrepreneur, because that takes incredible guts.
Yeah, I think it was actually really, really easy for me to be a virtual assistant while being a mom because I was doing all the things that moms do, right? Yeah. Actually, my first position was a family manager, so as a VA. So I was making appointments for people. I was scheduling medicines and putting it into their calendar. I was ordering school supplies on Amazon, and this family lived in across the US from me. Okay. So I just did everything online, like ordered their groceries, ordered their school supplies, everything you do for your own family, I did for them. Wow. But it allowed me to like really just create an income while being on my phone. So I could be, holding my child and just on my phone doing these things. And it was the best thing for me. And I don't do anything easy. 12 months after my daughter was born, I gave birth to my second child, who was
Wow.
also a preemie and was 3 pounds.
Mm.
So I think it was once they were kind of at school ages when I decided to do the agency, because I knew that was going to take a lot more of my time and my effort to actually grow a business. So in the beginning, I just stuck to just helping a few clients and really honing my skills and trying to help them while raising my kids.
Okay, very cool. So I've never heard of this concept, a family manager, but I love it. That sounds amazing. That sounds
Everyone
like
needs one.
something. Yes, I mean that's freaking cool. So somebody else can do a lot of that stuff that, especially if you have two working parents out of the house, it's those little things that pile up that you feel like you never have time to do, and then you have a little tiny bit of downtime on like a Saturday, and you're spending all of your time doing stuff like that and not spending time with your family. So I actually think that that's brilliant. So very cool. Well, how awesome that you could help out in that way, but also they're helping you by giving you an income that you can support your family with, and
Exactly.
the opportunity to be home with your child. So that is just the best of all worlds. I love it. So then you reach out and you decide to start this agency. And so what was the thought process behind the agency, and how did you launch that?
Yeah, so I had been saying for like a whole year, I was telling my husband, if I did an agency, I would kill it. I would
Yeah.
get so many clients. I would have a huge team. I was like, I just know I can do it. I've been doing this for like 2 years now, and the kids are, kind of getting that daycare age. And I was like, I could totally do this. And so I just was like, you know what, we're going to do it right now. I'm going to stop talking about it. Think
Yeah.
my son, I just felt comfortable leaving him with other people. And then that's kind of when I was like, I have some free time on my hands. Let's do this.
Yeah.
But I like to say I mom bossed too hard. I got 7 clients in 1 week,
Oh
which
my gosh.
some were at like full-time hours. So I had to hire 2 people within like 15 days of that. So it was absolutely insane. When it did grow, it grew very, very fast.
When you go from being, a one woman show, you're your own boss as a virtual assistant, at what point do you say, I'm going to take the leap and become an agency? And what was that process like?
Yeah, so my kids were a couple years older at this point, and so they were at that point where I could actually put them into a daycare. I could leave them with other people that I trusted. And so I felt comfortable, starting the agency because I had a little bit more time on my hands, because as we know, running a business takes a lot of time and energy, especially in those beginning stages. But I mom bossed too hard. I got 7 clients within 1 week, and then I had to hire 2 people within 15 days. And it was
Wow.
just this crazy like domino effect that really just started the growth of my business, and it just kept on growing really quickly.
That's so amazing. So then when you started doing the virtual assistant, was it difficult to hire people, or was that pretty seamless, because you could really show them exactly what it is that you've been doing and how you've been successful?
So I think it was a little hard for me at first, because there's a lot of skills that goes into hiring and then actually transitioning people as well. I had never been a supervisor. I'd never been a manager. I was a brand new mom. And so even at that, you kind of get manager experience if you learn to ask for help. And I think that was the biggest thing, was delegating. Delegating tasks, getting them off my plate, and making sure I'm delegating them in a way that they understand exactly what they need to do and how to do it. And then training them on, because we pride ourselves on, we're not just like the doers, we're also your strategic partner. So there's a lot of strategies that I had to teach them to really think about, because a lot of our stuff is like our processes. So when a client comes to me and is like, I have these emails, I absolutely hate them, I need to do something more, but I don't know what to do with them. So then we have to go there and think about all the different stuff in their process. How can we give value in this email? There's a lot of strategic things that go into it. And I had to teach them how to be that strategic.
Yeah, it is tough though, isn't it? Like it's one thing to be your own boss. It's a whole other thing to be somebody else's boss. There's a whole different skill set that comes with that. And like for me, I am somebody who I will just do a task, right? Like I have a very hard time delegating because I'm so used to just doing it myself, right? Like I've been a single mom for a long time. I'm just used to doing stuff myself. I've been a solo entrepreneur for a long time. And so when I started this business that I'm in now, when I started getting employees, one of the hangups was I was still the bottleneck because I couldn't delegate. And so it's a whole other strength that you have to develop, as a skill set you have to develop. Like, okay, there's something that, because I think as moms, we also have this idea in our heads that we can just do it better ourselves, right? It'll get done better and faster. It'll get done the way I want it to get done. But the problem is getting it done right and perfectly isn't as good as getting it done quickly sometimes. And so you have to decide if you're going to be a bottleneck by having to take this on, or if this is actually something that can be done better by somebody else. And so yeah,
and a lot of times it's how we're communicating with our team too. I feel like I hear that a lot from other entrepreneurs, like no one's going to do exactly how I do it. I have people in my business that do it exactly how I do it. And that's because I have put in the time and the training. I teach them not only how to do it, but the strategic thought process behind it, which is a whole nother skill set. And I have nurtured that relationship. We have, our family, the families that we build, we create systems and processes within our family, right? Like my kids get home from school, they put their shoes in the shoe rack. That's a process in the system I taught them, and they do it on their own. They do exactly how I want to do it. That's basically what it is. I think sometimes we make it too complicated, or we make excuses, and it's really just something that we're going to have to teach. And sometimes it takes teaching one person a little bit longer than the next.
No, absolutely. Well, and I also believe that if you teach people your why, that also encourages them to want to do it in a certain way, right? Because my frustration before was, if I teach somebody to do it, they might be able to do the task, but they're not going to do it with the same passion and the same focus. But then I started learning, if you teach them your why are we doing this? Why is this important? Why are we, why am I so driven about this one particular task? Why does this task matter? So if you can teach them the why, then generally they'll have a little bit more of a buy-in on that.
I love learning my employees why. So that's something I just started doing, because if you find out why they're working for you. So for me, a lot of times I hear, flexible schedule. I'm able to have my kid on a meeting when I meet with you. And I'm like, yes, that is pretty cool. And so you get to find out what in your systems and processes are working, what's not working, or maybe you have them doing a task that maybe they shouldn't be doing. They should be trying to do something else. Like I had one person said, you've really grown my design skills. And I actually had them on more admin stuff than design. So then I was able to shift them to more design work, and they've been doing amazing.
Awesome. So do you primarily hire other moms? Like, do you find that moms have this more that tenacity, or are you looking specifically for other moms?
Yeah, so I have women and men. I have caregivers, I have moms, I have dads, I have single guys, I have a whole mix of a team. We had to hire a lot of people. And so that kind of gives us a really good diversity on our team. But my first hires were moms. And I've always loved helping moms. And just because my job put me in a position where I had to choose my job or my family, I didn't want to ever grow a company that had those same values. So
good for you. Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, I find that, when I'm hiring, it's a balance, because you want people who are equally committed, to driving the business forward, but also, they care about their own personal life too, because we still say family first. Even as much as I want you to be driven in the business, I also want you to put family first, because I do feel like that's important. And for people who don't have kids, you still need to have that, have your personal interests, have the things that you're passionate about outside of work too.
Yeah, we have a hard stop at 5 o'clock, weekends, unless they want to work. they can, but I always we had clients at one time, we didn't always have this rule. Clients would text us at 2 a.m. in the morning. And so we had to put in those hard boundaries to protect our employees and to protect myself as well. Because it gets to be too much when you have, especially a business where you're dealing with multiple clients at once. It's really easy for boundaries to be crossed or not to have boundaries and everything go haywire. So boundaries are definitely really important in any business.
So how do you deal with the time zone differences? Because I imagine you have clients in other time zones.
Yeah. So we have clients all over the world. We do have some VAs that like to, so how our team works, it's a little different, which is why we get away with this.
Yeah.
So instead of you getting assigned to a VA and you guys just kind of go off and do your own tasks or whatnot together, my agency assigns you a project manager. The project manager is the one that meets with you. They get all your to-dos, and they'll create your SOPs. They'll just really be your strategic partner. And then they will give the to-dos to the rest of our team. So we have graphic designers, copywriters, admins, website designers, automation specialists. They will give those tasks to them. They'll review them. They'll check in on them, and then they'll report back to the client. So the client doesn't have to manage like 20 VAs at once. They have a project manager do that for them.
That's a fantastic business model. I think that's genius.
Yeah.
So then I'm going to pivot. So you go from the VA model to website design and more of that automation. How did that come about?
Yeah, I think especially after the pandemic, we saw so I'm pre-pandemic for a VA. I call myself a dinosaur for the virtual assistant world because most people started after the pandemic.
Right.
But we saw a increase in online businesses, obviously, and they were all needing websites and automations, and their email marketing was a really big topic back then too. And everyone all of a sudden had the time to put their thoughts and put them together, but they need someone to actually do the work and design it, and someone that had a little bit more knowledge too than them because they were just learning about this. And so we all of a sudden had hundreds of websites to create. And so I was hiring more and more website designers, and I was really good at automation. So I didn't have anyone on my team that was good at automation. So I had to start searching for that. And then, and same with copywriting and emails. And so we just kept finding, more and more things that were needing to be designed on the web space. And we kept getting really, really good at it. But we noticed that there were so many different softwares and systems out there and they weren't connecting. So someone might be using MailChimp, then they have their POS system. And then they're trying to use Zapier to connect everything, but Zapier doesn't connect everything. And it was just like this really big mess that all of their things were on these different platforms. They were spending thousands of dollars on all these platforms. And so that's when I opened my second business, Nadora, which you can create everything and it's all connected. So it creates your automations, it's your calendar, it is your website, you do website design, funnels, and so text campaigns. It does like anything and everything for an online business. So, and I love that because then we were able to not only help a bunch of people save a lot of money in software, but also we were able to educate them a lot. So we have Nadora U, which is our education center. So where we were able to teach them, how to even design your own website if you don't want a VA, how to build your automations, how to write effective email copy. So, so we have like the best experts in the world, all training and all of our members on how to use all these things.
That's so cool. Yeah, definitely something that's useful because people talk about what a tech stack, right? The tech stack is, what technologies are you using to run your business? And one of the frustrations is, we use a whole bunch of different technologies and they're all super useful as a standalone, but they don't talk. And so you're right. I mean, that is a challenge. You use Calendly for one thing and MailChimp for another thing, and your CRM for another thing. And you're right, there's no automation. So that's brilliant. Good for you.
Thank you.
So as you're setting that up, Tell me what the process is when you start building out technology. Did you hire that out to, or did you have those resources in-house?
Yeah, so so are you talking about when we built Nadora?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Okay, so yeah, so when we built Nandora, it's a white label software that we had a website developer come in, who is on our team and
Yeah,
was able to add a bunch of extras to it.
good.
And so that way, made it more unique and also geared towards the needs that we needed.
Very cool. Yeah, that's brilliant. All right. So as a small business, how can we then automate our systems? Like what is a good strategy to start automating your systems, and what systems can be automated? What can you do to integrate?
Oh my gosh, you can do hundreds of thousands of automations. We save 32 hours in automations a week.
Wow.
So, yeah, which is insane. So
Yeah.
just think about the tasks that you or your team is doing every single day, and there's a very good chance they can be automated. Not everything should be automated, but most things can, especially your emails. So if you don't have emails automated, you should, especially with your onboarding, your lead generation. Those are the two biggest ones that are so easy to automate. Um, but what I usually suggest is writing your customer journey first. So writing all the steps that you want your customer to take on their journey. So usually there's a freebie, right? Usually, so some sort of either coupon or a free PDF, a webinar, something free so they can learn more about you. Second thing is usually like a baby offer. So just something just to get their feet kind of wet and to actually commit with money down. And then you have your biggest offer, your main offer, whatever it is. And of course, you may have offers in between these, but this is just the basic structure. And so, how are you going to move your lead in your customer throughout all those steps? So
Right.
that's kind of where automation takes place. So you could automate not just emails and text messages, which most people know of, but you can automate Facebook message DMs. You can automate internal notifications. So who on your team needs to be notified of what for them to continue their job. There's so much. There is a lot, and you can customize it to basically however you want. I think we have like over 100 commands in the automation center that it can do in Adora. So yeah, it's
Very
pretty
cool.
cool how much you can do. Even like putting stuff into a Google Sheet, it does it for you.
Oh, that's awesome. We
Yeah,
definitely need more of
super
that.
helpful.
Yeah, seriously, because I think our tasks that I have set up right now are just so manual. It's pretty aggravating. So it would be nice to be able to automate some of that. Um,
Yeah.
okay, so do you have any success stories that you can talk about from like other clients who have implemented this?
Yeah. So we have, I think one of our biggest clients is actually a landscaping company. And so, but they're not just a landscaping company because she owns 4 other businesses. And
Wow.
so, yeah, so they started out on NG Virtual Assistant or VA agency. And so they used us because we were able to handle, a lot of work at once with having the project manager and able to really track all those different businesses. And then she was needing this, she wanted to build this invention that basically was going to be the Craigslist for the tree world. And so it's called the One Stop Tree Shop, and we actually built and designed it. And it was so much fun. So basically now they can you can post job postings, you can put equipment rentals, and it's just basically everyone in the tree industry was using Craigslist. Craigslist is now kind of falling off. And so she built this just to be for the tree industry. And it's a really, really cool product. And we've been able to do a lot of really cool things for her. So it's been a lot of fun.
That's awesome. Yeah, I love to see ingenuity, in the workplace, because most of the time when there's great inventions, it's to solve our
Mhm.
own problems, right? Those are the best inventions is, necessity. So good
Yeah.
for her. That's awesome. So who inspires you?
Ooh, I would say probably my husband is my biggest inspiration, especially lately.
Yeah.
is the one that taught me, like I told you, I hadn't been a boss, I hadn't been a manager, he had all that and so much more. He's actually an assistant warden for a prison. And so if anyone knows leadership, it's him. He is probably one of the best leadership speakers I've ever heard. He should definitely go into it for a business. I tell him that a lot because he's just so good with his words and inspiring others. But he helps me so much with mine. Like, if I keep mentioning I have the same issue over and over again, he's like, you need to talk to your team, have a team meeting. You need to give them this. He'll give me a YouTube video, do this lesson with this PDF, and, and get them back on track. And it's just been the coolest thing to really hone my leadership skills, because with technology, that stuff comes so easy to me. But being a leader is not natural for me. So
yeah, well, good for you. So I had read in your previous in another bio that I read of you, that you were once a foster child. Is that right?
I was a teen in the foster care system. So my mom, my stepfather, they went through a divorce when I was 14, and it was really hard on my mom emotionally, and I ended up going into foster care. And I was in there until I was 17. And when I got out of the foster care system, and I got my own apartment and lived on my own, which was pretty insane, especially now that I have my own kids. I'm like, I was a only baby.
I know.
So it was definitely a crazy, crazy part of my life and a crazy part of my journey.
Well, and what I have so much respect for is that in the foster care system, so many kids get lost, right? Because you don't have that nurturing and you don't have that guidance that you would normally have, especially in those critical teen years. And so for you to be able to pull yourself through that and then also create what you've created is just amazing.
Yeah, it was definitely one of the loneliest experiences. Like, I can't even imagine, I can't even explain how lonely I was in those years. And it just felt like everything was on my shoulders. Everything was my responsibility, which it was. And I had to find a way to get myself out and get myself on my own. And so I think that just kind of showed me that there's always a way. And with enough research and actually putting that research into actions, that you can basically get yourself out of any situation.
Yeah, good for you. Well, and I've studied foster care because I actually, my degree is in criminal psychology, but also child psychology. So I studied children who have gone through some really tough circumstances in life. And I did my internship with the Department of Juvenile Justice interviewing a lot of these kids who, it was either foster care or incarceration, right? And so for a lot of them who are in these really tough households, and so it's really challenging. So I can understand the loneliness. I was on suicide watch for several children, and dealing with parents and dealing with the system, and it's really a broken system. So how can people help foster children, especially our teenage foster children? What would you recommend in helping?
Yeah, so there's a ton of different programs, and actually I'm part of some of them. So one of my favorites is, depending on your state, you can be a guardian ad litem, which is basically, you can it's like 10 hours a month, and especially in Florida, and you can just go evaluate the case, and you're basically an advocate for that child. So basically, you got in this relationship, you have the child, you have the parent, and then you have the caseworker. Well, they all kind of have their own goals or interests in hand, but no one is necessarily there for the child, especially in court. And so that's what a guardian ad litem is. And was really actually a simple process to go through. There is a lot of training involved, but I am absolutely loving it. It's just a really good way to advocate without actually having to be like a foster parent. Of course, there's so many needs for good foster families, but it's definitely not easy. So it's something I always say to think about. But there's a lot of organizations, so just check your state and find out, especially if you own a business, even talk about with caseworkers about hiring children in the foster care system, because a lot of them can't go to jobs because they don't have a vehicle, or the foster parents don't want to take them. And so if you have a job that's mainly online, you can definitely hire foster children.
Wow, that's amazing. All right, very cool. So yeah, I was dying to ask you about that because again, I read that and I thought, this is really something that I want to touch on because the statistics are not favorable for foster children. I think something
And
like 80% of foster children end up homeless
yeah.
and then end up incarcerated because they're homeless and they are trying to figure out how to survive. And sometimes that includes doing things that are not legal. So yeah, the statistics are not good. And so I just applaud you for coming out of that and for doing what you're doing and not just doing something that is contributing back to the workforce, but also contributing back to foster children. So I applaud you for that.
Yeah, and it's crazy, we're told as foster kids that there's a very good chance we're going to end up in jail. And
Mm.
I was told that by multiple people that you're going to end up in jail one day. And I was that quiet kid with a book in the
Yeah.
living room. And I was told that I was going to end up in jail one
Oh
day,
my gosh.
and I always laugh because I ended up living at a prison. So we live at prison because of staff housing, and I'm married to an assistant warden.
Oh
So I
my
always laugh and I'm like, well, they weren't necessarily wrong.
gosh.
So
That's
that's kind of
awesome.
a joke in our family is like, hey, I guess they were right. It wasn't jail, it was prison though.
Yeah.
So
Well, yeah, I think you did an amazing job. So
thank
good for
you.
you. Okay, so tell me, as women, sometimes we give our power away, right? Whether that looks like giving somebody else credit or allowing somebody else to, um, you know, criticize us without us standing up for ourselves. So can you tell me about a time that you've given your power away and then another time when you stepped into your power?
Yeah, so I don't think I even realized what I was doing, but I had attended this speech at Podfest actually a couple years ago, and they were saying that women always give discounts where they're not needed or or freebies or
Mm.
whatnot. They're like, we're famous for doing that. And I was like, oh my gosh, I've given away 4 this month. Like our team made a mistake, so I give them an hour credit, right?
Mm.
It's like I feel guilty, but honestly, sometimes these things, like when there's mistakes made in our business, it's not necessarily our team or our fault. Sometimes it's communication, it's how
Right.
that was delivered. And if we're actually giving away power because they're expecting freebies now every time we make mistakes.
Yeah.
And they're not appreciative of it. I gave away 2 recently, and because it's still a habit that I'm working at. I recognize it. I'm still giving away. I'm still trying to not do it, but neither of them said thank you or that they appreciated me or like they appreciate me looking into that. They just took it and went on with their day. And
Mm.
so I think it's really, really important that we're not doing that and we're investigating the whole thing, and we're not like, oh, we made a mistake. We can always say, hey, we'll fix it, we'll improve it for you, but we don't have to give anything free in return. And I think that's really, really important because I hate the term customer is always right. It's not always right. A lot of times we're teaching them things. That's why they come to us, because they want to be taught processes and systems, and they want more of a strategic team. And so we're teaching our clients all the time. And so I think that's definitely where I've been giving my power the most, is in those sorry, my bad, here's a free hour. So
Yeah.
stopping that.
Mhm.
By the time I stepped into my power, that's a great question. I know there's a lot of situations. I think firing a client is
Mhm.
probably, especially on the other end of that spectrum.
Yeah.
I've had to fire a couple clients. I fired 2 this month because and it was not an easy decision. I don't come to it ever lightly. But if it's creating, if they've gone through several project managers, if those project managers are all stressed and concerned, and they're broken, and they're just like, I can't do this anymore. And that takes a lot for my team to say. I probably only heard it every time I fired a client, is pretty much,
Yeah.
but it's not very often. These are the first 2 all year. And it wasn't, and it was a lot of consideration and thinking about it. But at that point, it's not worth it. It's not worth your team to be stressed or they keep making more mistakes because the clients are constantly messaging them every 2 seconds. It's
Mhm.
like, imagine cleaning your room with your mother behind you saying, you didn't pick this up. You didn't pick that up.
Yeah.
You need to put this there. You're going to make mistakes. You're not going to do a good job and nothing's going to be right.
Right.
And that's a situation we find ourselves in sometimes. And you just have to step up and say, we really appreciate you. And we appreciate your time with us. Unfortunately, we can no longer work with you. And then I give them a recommendation. That's super important
Mhm.
for me. I'm like, this VA agency actually specializes in, people that have never had a VA and can really teach you and train you, through the process. So these are going to be a great fit for you. So I have a couple VA agencies that I collaborate with,
That's
and because
great.
not every client is going to be good for me, and it might be great for them.
I 100% agree. Well, good for you. Yeah, I agree. We do tend to discount ourselves when we teach people how to treat us. And when we are discounting ourselves, we're showing that we're not valuable. And so as a rule in our company, we don't negotiate rates. So everybody in our industry negotiates rates except us, because I just feel like, no, I'm not going to undervalue what we do. So we provide a service that's valuable. The others not so much. So we want to make sure that we're putting ourselves in a position where people are going to understand our value and why we don't negotiate.
I love that.
Yeah. So tell me, what advice would you give to your 18-year-old self?
Ooh. I think just to keep on trugging along, like you're doing a great job, you're going to get where you're going to need to be one day. I think I
Mhm.
definitely made mistakes in my teens and early 20s, but every mistake brought me to where I am today.
Yeah.
So I don't think I'd give any advice because it would change what I did in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. Well, good for you. All right. So what do you wish more people knew?
Ooh. I think I wish more people knew how to delegate, because
Mhm.
once you learn how to delegate and give things off your plate and hire a team, you are able to do so much more. And when life gets crazy and hectic, so right now my mom and stepdad actually got back together,
Oh, wow.
but he has dementia,
Mm.
and it is one of the most heartbreaking illnesses I have ever witnessed in my life. And I am now able to take off Tuesdays to spend with him and take him out to lunch and have fun with him because I own my own business. Can you
Right.
imagine the job that told me I had 2 days to give birth, saying,
Yeah.
yeah, take Tuesdays off to hang out with your stepfather? No, they wouldn't
Right.
do that. And so just like, because I'm able to delegate and have a team running things, I don't have to be there all the time. And they don't message me on Tuesdays. They let me have that time with my stepfather, which I'm so, so thankful for them. I have an amazing team.
Mhm.
And because I delegated and I learned to delegate, I have a director of operations, I have project managers, I have a whole tier. So everyone knows who they have to speak to. And the only person that really reports to me is the director of operations. And so that's when I'm able to, really get my time back.
Wow, that's amazing. Good for you. Yeah, I agree. Having that time is precious. I'm like I said, I meant earlier, I'm a single mom. And so for a long time, I've had my business for 8 years. And when my son was really little, I would make it a point of being home to get him off the bus every single day. So that meant me coming home, leaving my office, driving, 40 minutes home so that I could be home by 2:30 or 3 o'clock and then get him off the bus. And then that would also mean that I'd have to work after he went to bed. But that time, that precious little time, you'll never get back. And so it's so beautiful that you recognize the time that you have with him is just irreplaceable. It's
Yeah.
priceless. So, well, good for you. So, thank you so much for your time today. I've really enjoyed talking with you and I've gotten so much value out of it. So, I wish you so much success and I just hope you just keep building your team and building and doing more businesses because you're brilliant. And I think that you have so much to offer.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me. I had so much fun.
Yes. So tell me, how can people find you?
Yeah, so you can find me all over social media. It's Natalie Guzman. So make sure to put the ITS in front of my name.
Mhm.
And then the businesses are ngvirtualassistant.com and nadora.org.
Okay, very cool. Well, I wish you, like I said, incredible success, and I know you'll just continue to do great things. And thank you guys for joining us for another episode of the Pretty Powerful Podcast. And you can also find Natalie Guzman on prettypowerfulpodcast.com. All of her information and her links will be on there as well. So again, thank you so much, and I hope everyone has an amazing day.
Thank you for joining our guests on the Pretty Powerful Podcast. And we hope you've gained new insight and learned from exceptional women. Remember to subscribe or check out this and all episodes on prettypowerfulpodcast.com. Visit us next time, and until then, step into your own power.